Max's nose hit the muddy ground for the 15th time in 10 minutes, his powerful hindquarters driving deeper into the soggy earth beside Peachtree Creek. Sarah Collins tugged the leash harder this time, her boots squelching in the waterlogged grass that stretched endlessly around them like a battlefield aftermath from some natural disaster. "Max, heel!" she commanded, but her Belgian Malinois partner ignored her completely. His black and tan coat was already caked with thick mud, and his tactical harness dripped creek water steadily onto the saturated ground beneath. "We're supposed to be doing a routine patrol, not excavating half of Atlanta like some kind of archaeological dig site." The flooding from last night's torrential rains had transformed their normal route into a treacherous swamp. Fallen branches and scattered debris littered the usually pristine park area, and Peachtree Creek had swollen to nearly twice its normal width, rushing past with an angry brown current that carried leaves, trash, and foam downstream toward the Chattahoochee River system that fed into the Gulf of Mexico. Sarah checked her watch. Uso 847 hours. They'd been out here for nearly 2 hours already, and her shift supervisor would expect them back at the precinct by noon for debriefing on yesterday's drug bust in East Atlanta. But Max had other plans entirely, and his stubborn determination was legendary throughout the K9 unit. His claws scraped against something solid beneath the mud. Not rocks or fallen timber, something distinctly artificial and deliberately placed. His ears perked forward immediately, and he released a low, urgent whine that Sarah had learned to recognize over their 6 years of partnership. This wasn't his playful digging behavior. This was his trained alert signal, the one that meant serious business was happening. "What is it, boy?" Sarah crouched beside him, her sharp green eyes studying his rigid posture with growing concern and professional curiosity. Max's tail stood perfectly straight, his powerful muscles coiled with unmistakable tension. Whatever lay buried beneath the waterlogged mud had triggered every highly trained instinct he possessed through years of specialized training. She pulled on latex gloves from her utility belt and began helping him dig with her hands. The earth came away easily, waterlogged and soft from hours of soaking rain. Her fingers suddenly touched something smooth and hard, definitely man-made, definitely intentionally placed here by someone who knew exactly what they were doing and wanted it found eventually. Working together in practice synchronization, they cleared away more thick mud until the corner of a black waterproof case slowly emerged from its muddy tomb. The case gleamed dully in the overcast morning light, its surface unmarked by exposure, but heavy with promise and potential danger lurking within its sealed confines. "Jesus Christ," Sarah whispered under her breath, her heart rate beginning to accelerate with anticipation. The case was substantial, maybe 2 feet by 3 feet, and appeared to be some kind of heavy-duty military-grade storage container. Max whined again, pawing insistently at the partially exposed edges with his muddy paws, his training telling him this discovery was significant beyond normal patrol findings. Sarah keyed her radio with muddy fingers. "Unit 47 to Central. I need a crime scene unit dispatched to Peachtree Creek Park, north entrance near the main trail. Possible evidence recovery situation requiring immediate attention and full forensic support team deployment." "Copy that, Unit 47. What's the specific nature of your find? Need more details for proper dispatch protocols." Sarah stared hard at the partially excavated case, her cop instincts screaming warnings like fire alarms throughout her entire nervous system. Something about its deliberate placement, buried but not too deep, hidden but clearly meant to be retrieved by someone who knew exactly where to look for it, sent ice-cold chills racing down her spine, despite the humid morning air that hung heavy around them, like a suffocating blanket. "Unknown at this time, Central. Just send CSI and maybe a supervisor. This could be big, real big, and potentially dangerous." Max sat perfectly motionless beside the mysterious case, his intelligent dark eyes fixed intently on Sarah's face with unwavering attention and professional focus. After 6 years of partnership through drug busts, armed robberies, domestic violence calls, and countless dangerous situations across Atlanta's toughest neighborhoods, She'd learned to trust his razor-sharp instincts completely, and without question or hesitation. The distant sound of approaching sirens began echoing across the flooded park as Sarah knelt in the cold mud, one protective hand resting on Max's head, both of them staring at whatever dangerous secrets lay buried beneath. Atlanta's most peaceful creek, waiting to change their lives forever in ways they couldn't possibly imagine at this moment. The crime scene unit took 3 hours to properly excavate and open the waterproof case. Sarah watched from behind the yellow tape as Detective Martinez photographed every angle, but her eyes kept returning to the contents spread across the plastic tarp, stacks of $100 bills in pristine condition, easily $2 million, and dozens of loose diamonds that caught the afternoon sunlight like captured stars from some distant galaxy. "Holy shit!" Martinez whistled, picking up one of the larger stones with sterile tweezers. "This isn't some amateur operation. These diamonds are high grade, probably worth more than my house and car combined." Sarah crouched beside Max, who hadn't moved from his alert position since the discovery. His nose twitched constantly, processing scents that normal humans couldn't detect. "What do you think, boy? Who buries this kind of money in a public park?" Back at the precinct, Sarah spent the next 2 hours running serial numbers and checking databases with methodical precision. The bills were clean, no counterfeiting marks, no tracking sequences from bank robberies, no federal alerts. But the diamonds told a completely different story that made her stomach clench with apprehension. 3 of them matched exact descriptions from a jewelry store heist in Miami 6 months ago. The theft had made national news. Armed gunmen had walked away with over $5 million in precious stones from an upscale boutique in South Beach. Her computer pinged with a database match. Sterling Luxury Jewelers, a high-end chain with locations across the Southeast. The company's founder and CEO was Marcus Sterling, a respected businessman who'd built his empire from a single store in downtown Atlanta 20 years ago through what appeared to be shrewd business acumen. Sarah pulled up Sterling's comprehensive file. Clean record, no arrests, active in charity work throughout the Atlanta community. His photograph showed a distinguished man in his 50s with silver hair and expensive suits that probably cost more than her monthly salary. But something about his eyes bothered her. Too calculating, too cold for someone supposedly in the customer service business. "Max, come here." The dog padded over, his tail wagging slightly with curiosity. Sarah scratched behind his ears affectionately. "What do you think about Marcus Sterling?" Max tilted his head, those intelligent brown eyes studying the photograph on her computer screen with unusual intensity. After a long moment, he gave a low growl, barely audible, but Sarah caught it immediately. In 6 years of partnership, Max had never reacted negatively to a photograph unless something was fundamentally wrong. Sarah's phone buzzed against her desk. Unknown number, flashing on the display. "Officer Collins, speaking. Who is this?" "My name is Marcus Sterling. I believe you found something that belongs to me today, beside Peachtree Creek." Sarah's blood ran cold like ice water through her veins. She hadn't released any information about the discovery to the media, and the evidence was still being processed in the forensics lab. How did Sterling know she was personally involved in the case? "I'm sorry, Mr. Sterling, but I can't discuss ongoing investigations with civilians." "Of course not, but I think we should meet in person. There are things about that case you found that could put you in considerable danger if you're not careful." Sarah looked down at Max, who was staring at the phone with his ears pinned back aggressively. "What kind of danger are we talking about?" "The kind that gets police officers killed, Officer Collins. Meet me at my flagship store on Peachtree Street tomorrow at noon sharp. Come alone and bring your dog. I have a feeling he's the real hero in this story." The line went dead abruptly. Sarah stared at her phone, her mind racing with possibilities and threats. Sterling knew about Max specifically, knew they were partners, knew intimate details about their discovery. That level of detailed information suggested surveillance, preparation, and resources that went far beyond a simple businessman. She pulled up Sterling's business records on her computer with growing suspicion. 23 locations across 5 states, annual revenue in the hundreds of millions of dollars. But as she dug deeper into the financial records, troubling inconsistencies emerged like red flags. Stores in locations that didn't make economic sense, shipping records that didn't match inventory reports, and financial transfers that seemed deliberately designed to obscure rather than illuminate the company's true operations. Max whined softly, pressing his warm muzzle against her leg with concern. Sarah looked down into his trusting brown eyes and made a decision that would change everything about their partnership. "Looks like we're going jewelry shopping tomorrow, partner. But something tells me this isn't going to be a normal customer service visit." But first, she was going to find out exactly who Marcus Sterling really was, and why he was so eager to get his buried treasure back from police custody. Because in her experience, when powerful men started making veiled threats over the phone, it usually meant they had much bigger and more dangerous secrets to hide from law enforcement. Sarah arrived at Sterling Luxury Jewelers 15 minutes early, parking her patrol car across the street where she could observe the building and assess potential threats. The flagship store occupied prime real estate on Peachtree Street, its gleaming windows displaying diamonds that cost more than most people's annual salaries. Max sat alertly in the passenger seat, his dark eyes scanning the sidewalks for any signs of danger or suspicious activity. "Something feels wrong about this boy," Sarah murmured, checking her service weapon one more time and ensuring her radio was functioning properly. Rich guys don't usually call cops directly about evidence unless they're desperate or hiding something big. The store's interior was exactly what she'd expected. Polished marble floors, crystal chandeliers casting rainbow patterns, and security cameras positioned strategically in every corner. Marcus Sterling emerged from a back office the moment she entered, his expensive suit immaculate and his silver hair perfectly styled like a politician preparing for television cameras. But his smile never reached those cold, calculating eyes that reminded her of a predator sizing up prey. "Officer Collins, thank you for coming. And this must be the famous Max." Sterling extended his hand toward the dog, who immediately backed away with a low, threatening growl. Interesting reaction. Animals often sense things that humans miss, don't they? "Mr. Sterling, I need to be clear that any evidence in police custody cannot be returned without proper legal procedures and court orders. If you have a legitimate claim to those items, you'll need to work through official channels with appropriate documentation." Sterling's polished facade cracked slightly, revealing something darker underneath. "Official channels take time, Officer Collins. Time I don't have. You see, that money and those diamonds represent years of careful planning and delicate negotiations, and there are very dangerous people who will kill to get them back." Sarah's hand instinctively moved closer to her weapon. "What people? What kind of planning are you talking about?" Sterling walked to the window, gazing out at the busy street with the air of a man watching for enemies. 20 years ago, I was a nobody, a small-time jewelry appraiser, struggling to make ends meet in this expensive city. Then I met some very interesting clients from South America who had unique financial needs. They needed a way to convert their liquid assets into something more portable and less traceable by federal authorities. "You're talking about money laundering operations. I'm talking about survival in a very dangerous business world." Sterling turned back to face her, his mask completely dropped now. "Do you know how much money flows through the cocaine trade every month, Officer Collins? Hundreds of millions in cash that needs to disappear into legitimate businesses without attracting attention. My jewelry stores became the perfect washing machine for dirty money." Max's growl deepened, his muscles tensing for action. Sarah could feel the dangerous shift in the room's atmosphere, like electricity building before a violent thunderstorm. "The diamonds you found came directly from my suppliers in Colombia. The cash represents payment for services rendered over the past 6 months of successful operations. I buried it there as insurance against exactly this kind of situation. But now that you've found it, everything unravels. Then you're under arrest for money laundering and—" "No!" Sterling's voice turned deadly calm, like ice water. "You don't understand the situation you've stumbled into, Officer Collins. My Colombian partners don't forgive mistakes, and they certainly don't leave witnesses alive to testify. The moment they discover you've compromised their operation, you become a target for elimination." Sarah's radio suddenly crackled to life with urgent static. "All units, officer down at Piedmont Park. Multiple shots fired. Ambulance en route. Repeat, officer down." Sterling smiled coldly, showing teeth like a shark. "That would be Detective Martinez from your crime scene unit. He was asking too many questions about the diamond's origin and their connection to my business operations. My associates don't appreciate curiosity from law enforcement officials." Sarah's blood turned to ice water in her veins. "Martinez had a wife and 2 young children at home." "You bastard. I didn't order it, but I couldn't prevent it either. This is what I'm trying to explain. You've stumbled into something much bigger and more dangerous than a simple evidence recovery operation. The Medellin cartel doesn't take prisoners, Officer Collins, and they don't show mercy to anyone who threatens their business interests." Max suddenly lunged forward, his teeth snapping inches from Sterling's throat. Sarah grabbed his collar firmly, but the message was crystal clear. Her partner wanted to tear this man apart, limb by limb. "Here's what's going to happen," Sterling continued, apparently unfazed by the near attack. "You're going to arrange for that evidence to disappear from police custody permanently. In return, I'll ensure your safety and that of your furry friend here. And if I refuse your generous offer?" Sterling pulled out his phone and showed her a photograph. Sarah's apartment building, taken from across the street with telephoto precision. "My associates are very thorough, Officer Collins. They know where you live, where you shop, where you take Max for his evening walks through the neighborhood." Sarah stared at the photograph, her mind racing through limited options. Martinez was probably dead, and she was standing in the middle of an international money laundering operation with a killer who just threatened her life and Max's safety. "I need time to think about this. You have 24 hours. Make the evidence disappear, or you'll join Detective Martinez in the morgue." Sterling's cold smile returned. "And Officer Collins, don't think about running. There's nowhere you can hide that they won't find you." Sarah's hands shook as she started her patrol car outside Sterling's jewelry store. Max whined softly from the passenger seat, sensing her fear and stress radiating through every muscle in her body. 24 hours to make evidence disappear or die. Those were her options, according to Marcus Sterling, and Detective Martinez was already dead to prove he wasn't bluffing about the consequences. "We need backup, boy, but who can we trust?" Sarah pulled out her cell phone, then hesitated. If Sterling had enough resources to track her movements and kill Martinez, he probably had contacts inside the police department. One wrong call could sign their death warrant within hours. She drove aimlessly through Atlanta's busy streets, checking her mirrors constantly for signs of surveillance. Every black sedan looked suspicious. Every motorcycle could be carrying an assassin, and every pedestrian might be watching her location. The paranoia was overwhelming, but justified given the circumstances. Sarah parked at a McDonald's and called her supervisor, Lieutenant Jackson. "I need to report a serious threat against my life and request protective custody for an ongoing investigation." "Collins, slow down. What threat? What investigation are you talking about?" "The evidence we recovered from Peachtree Creek. There are people who want it back, and they've already killed Martinez to send a message." Sarah's voice cracked slightly. "Sir, I think we're dealing with international criminals who have unlimited resources. Martinez is fine, Collins. I just spoke with him 20 minutes ago. He's processing evidence at the lab downtown." Sarah's blood ran cold. The radio call about an officer down at Piedmont Park had been fake, a psychological manipulation designed to terrify her into compliance. Sterling was playing mind games, demonstrating his ability to intercept police communications and create false emergencies. "Sir, I need you to verify Martinez's location immediately and increase security around the evidence room. We may have a breach of police communication systems." "Collins, you sound paranoid. Come back to the station and we'll discuss this properly." The line went dead. Sarah stared at her phone, realizing that Sterling's reach might extend further into the department than she'd imagined. Lieutenant Jackson had dismissed her concerns too quickly, almost as if he'd been expecting her call. A black motorcycle pulled into the McDonald's parking lot, the rider's helmet obscuring his face completely. Sarah's instincts screamed danger. She started the engine and pulled out quickly, but the motorcycle followed at a careful distance. "Max, we've got company." The dog's ears perked up, and he turned to watch the motorcycle through the rear window. Sarah took a series of random turns through residential neighborhoods, but the bike stayed with them consistently. She accelerated onto I-85, weaving through traffic at dangerous speeds. The motorcycle kept pace effortlessly, its rider clearly skilled and determined. Sarah's radio crackled. "Unit 47, return to station immediately for debriefing." But it wasn't dispatch. The voice was unfamiliar and the call sign was wrong. Someone was using police frequencies to track her movements and issue false commands. Sterling's operation was more sophisticated than she'd realized. Sarah took the Piedmont Road exit and headed toward the old industrial district, where abandoned warehouses provided multiple escape routes. The motorcycle followed, now joined by a black sedan that had appeared from nowhere. "They're boxing us in, Max?" Sarah's training kicked in as she spotted a third vehicle ahead, trying to force her into a predetermined kill zone. She yanked the wheel hard right, tires screaming as they entered an empty parking lot behind a defunct textile mill. The motorcycle roared up beside her window, and Sarah saw the rider pulling a pistol from his jacket. She slammed on the brakes just as he fired, the bullet shattering her side mirror instead of her skull. Max exploded into action, leaping through the open passenger window and tackling the motorcyclist to the asphalt. The man screamed as Max's teeth found his gun arm, forcing him to drop the weapon. Sarah grabbed her service pistol and rolled out of the car as the black sedan screeched to a halt 30 yards away. Two men emerged from the sedan, both armed with automatic weapons that looked military-grade. Sarah took cover behind her patrol car as bullets began chewing through the metal bodywork. Max had neutralized the motorcyclist, but was now exposed in the open parking lot. "Max, here!" Sarah shouted. Her partner sprinted toward her as gunfire erupted from multiple directions. She returned fire, forcing the gunmen to seek cover behind their vehicle, but they had superior firepower and unlimited ammunition. This was a losing battle. Sarah's radio crackled again. "Officer Collins, this is FBI agent Rebecca Torres. We're 3 minutes from your location. Hold your position and stay alive." For the first time in hours, Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. But as more gunfire exploded around them, she realized that 3 minutes might be too long. Max pressed against her leg, both of them trapped in a concrete parking lot with professional killers closing in from 3 sides. The war for survival had begun in earnest, and Sarah wasn't sure they would live long enough to see the cavalry arrive. Sterling had made his move with deadly precision, and now everything depended on whether the FBI could reach them before the bullets found their target. The sound of approaching sirens echoed faintly in the distance, but the gunfire was getting closer with each passing second. FBI agent Rebecca Torres arrived with a tactical team just as the gunfight reached its crescendo. Sarah watched from behind her bullet-riddled patrol car as federal agents in black combat gear swarmed the parking lot, their automatic weapons quickly overwhelming Sterling's mercenaries. Within minutes, 2 assassins were dead, and the third was bleeding out on the asphalt beside his motorcycle. "Officer Collins, Agent Torres, FBI Financial Crimes Division." The tall woman with short black hair and piercing blue eyes approached with her weapon still drawn. "We've been tracking Marcus Sterling's money laundering operation for 18 months. Your discovery of that buried case gave us the evidence we needed to move against him." Sarah struggled to her feet. Max pressed protectively against her leg. "How did you know we were here? How did you find us so quickly?" "We've had Sterling under surveillance since yesterday. When his people started hunting you, we intervened." Torres holstered her weapon and surveyed the carnage. "But this was just the muscle. Sterling himself is the real target, and he's probably destroying evidence right now." Back at the FBI field office, Torres spread crime scene photos and financial records across a conference table. Sarah studied the documents while Max rested at her feet, still alert despite their ordeal. The scope of Sterling's operation was staggering. 23 jewelry stores across 5 states, all serving as fronts for washing cartel money. The Colombian suppliers pay Sterling in cash and rough diamonds, Torres explained. He converts the diamonds into certified stones through his stores, then sells them to legitimate buyers. The cash gets deposited as jewelry sales revenue. It's sophisticated and nearly undetectable. Nearly. Sterling got greedy. He started skimming money from his cartel partners, hiding it in cases like the one you found. Our financial analysis shows he's stolen over $15 million from them in the past 2 years. Sarah leaned back in her chair. So, he's not just laundering money. He's embezzling from the cartel that hired him. That explains why he was so desperate to get the evidence back. Exactly. If the Colombians discover his theft, they'll kill him slowly. But if we arrest him first, he might cooperate to save his life. Torres pulled out surveillance photos of Sterling's flagship store. We need to get inside his private office tonight. The real records are kept in a hidden safe behind his desk. You want me to break into his store? We want you to arrest him while we search the premises. Max found that evidence, which gives you probable cause for a warrant, but Sterling's lawyers will have him out on bail within hours unless we find something bigger. Sarah studied the building schematics. What about his security system? The place was loaded with cameras when I was there earlier. We'll handle the electronics. Your job is to get inside with Max and keep Sterling occupied while our tech team accesses his safe. Torres handed her an earpiece. But Sarah, you need to understand. If Sterling realizes what's happening, he'll try to kill you. The man has nothing left to lose. At 2:47 a.m., Sarah and Max approached the jewelry store through the back alley. Torres and her team had disabled the alarm system and security cameras, but Sterling's private office was on the 2nd floor, accessible only through the main showroom. Sarah picked the lock on the rear entrance with tools provided by the FBI, her hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. The showroom was eerily quiet, diamonds glittering in display cases like captured starlight. Max moved silently beside her, his training keeping him focused and alert. They climbed the narrow staircase to Sterling's office, where a sliver of light showed beneath the door. Sarah drew her weapon and listened carefully. She could hear Sterling's voice inside, speaking rapidly in Spanish to someone on the phone. The conversation sounded urgent, desperate. He was probably trying to arrange transportation out of the country before the FBI could arrest him. FBI is in position, Torres whispered through the earpiece. Safe is behind the painting of the ship. We need 90 seconds to crack it. Sarah took a deep breath and kicked in the door. Police! Hands where I can see them. Sterling spun around from his desk, the phone clattering to the floor. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his silver hair disheveled, and his eyes held the wild look of a cornered animal. Officer Collins, I was wondering when you'd arrive. You're under arrest for money laundering, conspiracy, and attempted murder of a police officer. Sterling laughed bitterly. Attempted murder, my dear. If I wanted you dead, you'd already be in the morgue next to Martinez. His hand moved slowly toward the desk drawer. But since you're here, perhaps we can still reach an accommodation. Max growled low, sensing danger. Sarah kept her weapon trained on Sterling while listening to Torres count down in her earpiece. 60 seconds. The accommodation is you in federal prison for the rest of your life, Sarah replied. Step away from the desk. Instead, Sterling lunged for the drawer. Sarah fired twice, the bullets catching him center mass and spinning him backward into the wall. He slumped to the floor, blood spreading across his white shirt, his eyes already glazing over with approaching death. Safe is open, Torres announced through the earpiece. Jesus Christ, Sarah, there are detailed records of every transaction, bank account numbers, contact information for cartel leaders. This is the mother lode. Sarah knelt beside Sterling's body, while Max sniffed cautiously at the dead man's hands. After 18 hours of terror and violence, Marcus Sterling's empire had finally collapsed. But as she looked at the financial records Torres was photographing, Sarah realized they'd uncovered something much bigger than simple money laundering. They'd just dealt a crippling blow to one of the largest drug cartels in South America. The war was over, but the victory belonged to justice. 3 weeks later, Sarah stood in the federal courthouse, watching as FBI agents led the last of Sterling's associates away in handcuffs. The investigation had unraveled a network spanning 12 states and 4 countries, resulting in 47 arrests and the seizure of over $200 million in assets. Max sat beside her, wearing his ceremonial collar for the press conference that would follow. "Officer Collins," Agent Torres approached with a thick folder under her arm. "The final tally is in. Thanks to your discovery and Max's instincts, we've dismantled one of the most sophisticated money laundering operations in FBI history." Sarah scratched behind Max's ears, remembering that muddy morning beside Peachtree Creek that had started everything. "What happens to all the money and diamonds we recovered? The legitimate assets get returned to their rightful owners. The rest goes into the Federal Asset Forfeiture Fund, schools, hospitals, community programs. Sterling's ill-gotten gains will actually help people for a change." The press conference was a whirlwind of camera flashes and reporters shouting questions. Sarah kept her answers brief and professional, deflecting most of the credit to the FBI's investigative work. But when asked about Max's role in the case, she couldn't hide her pride. "Max has been my partner for 6 years, and he's never been wrong about anything important. When he insisted on digging beside that creek, I should have listened immediately. His instinct saved lives and brought down a criminal empire." Max wagged his tail at the attention, but Sarah could see he was getting restless. Press conferences weren't really his style. He preferred action to accolades. Later that evening, they walked through Piedmont Park as the sun set over Atlanta's skyline. The same instincts that had led Max to Sterling's buried treasure now guided them along familiar patrol routes, both of them back in their element, away from the media circus. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from Lieutenant Jackson. "Mayor wants to give you and Max the Medal of Valor. Ceremony next Friday. Mandatory attendance." She showed Max the message. "What do you think, boy? Ready for another ceremony?" Max's response was to investigate an interesting scent near a park bench, completely ignoring the prospect of more formal recognition. Sarah laughed, realizing that for both of them, the real reward wasn't medals or commendations. It was the knowledge that they'd made Atlanta a safer place. Agent Torres had explained that Sterling's arrest would trigger a massive power vacuum in the Colombian cartel's operations. Other law enforcement agencies across the hemisphere were already reporting disrupted drug shipments and arrested dealers as the organization scrambled to replace their primary money laundering channel. The diamonds from Sterling's safe were particularly significant. Forensic analysis had linked them to robberies in 6 different cities, helping solve cold cases that had puzzled detectives for years. Each recovered stone represented justice for victims who thought they'd never see their stolen property again. But perhaps the most satisfying outcome was the closure of Sterling's 23 jewelry stores. Sarah had driven past the flagship location on Peachtree Street yesterday, watching workers remove the expensive fixtures and displays. The building would become a community center, funded by the forfeited assets from Sterling's criminal enterprise. As they completed their evening walk, Sarah reflected on how much had changed since that flooded morning beside the creek. She'd faced professional killers, uncovered international conspiracies, and helped dismantle a criminal empire worth hundreds of millions of dollars. But through it all, Max had been her constant companion and protector. "You know what, boy?" Sarah said as they reached her patrol car. "Tomorrow we go back to regular police work. No more cartels, no more assassins, just regular Atlanta crime." Max wagged his tail enthusiastically, as if he understood perfectly. They'd had their adventure, proven themselves against impossible odds, and emerged victorious. But at heart, they were both cops who preferred the daily routine of protecting and serving their community. Sarah started the engine and headed home, Max riding shotgun as always. In her rearview mirror, she could see the lights of downtown Atlanta twinkling like terrestrial stars. Somewhere out there, other criminals were planning other schemes, but they'd have to contend with Officer Sarah Collins and her four-legged partner. The badge on her chest felt heavier now, weighted with the knowledge of what they'd accomplished together. Sterling's empire was finished. His associates were in federal prison, and his blood money would fund legitimate programs for years to come. Justice had been served, one buried treasure at a time. And tomorrow, Sarah and Max would be back on patrol, ready for whatever Atlanta's streets might throw at them next. Because that's what partners do. They face the world together, one case at a time, until every criminal learns that some bonds can't be broken and some instincts can't be ignored. The city was safe, the case was closed, and the partnership that had started it all remained stronger than ever. In the end, that was the only treasure that really mattered to either of them. Max looked up at Sarah through the rearview mirror, his intelligent brown eyes reflecting the streetlights as they drove through the neighborhoods they'd sworn to protect. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new criminals to catch, and new mysteries to solve. But tonight, they could rest knowing that justice had prevailed and that their bond had proven unbreakable even under the most dangerous circumstances imaginable. Sterling's buried treasure had led them into the fight of their lives, but it had also revealed the true treasure they'd possessed all along, a partnership built on trust, loyalty, and an unwavering commitment to doing what was right, no matter the personal cost or professional risk involved.